Hello and welcome to the Santa Clarita Valley Signal News Podcast. I'm your host, Aron Bender. Thanks for supporting this podcast, and while you're here, please subscribe, rate, and review. This week, we have breaking news involving the stabbing death of a woman in Saugus, the latest on Henry Mayo's expansion plans, the city possibly creating its own health department, and it was a good day for the Cube. But first, we start early Thursday morning in a neighborhood just north of Grace Baptist Church. Signal reporter Caleb Lunetta covered the story.
There was a lot of traffic coming out on our scanners about a woman being stabbed a number of times, and then the suspect then fleeing the scene. We had heard about it right around 6:45, 7 a.m. this morning, and what ended up actually being the order of events is that woman was eventually transported to the hospital and died from the stabbings, the multiple wounds that she suffered. Currently, right now, the primary suspect is her ex-husband, a man by the name of James Dorsey. He's believed to be the ex-husband, like I said, of the woman that was killed. He drove down from Washington State. We at the Signal had found out this morning, after going through court documents, was that they were in the midst of a divorce that involved the custody of 3 children, and there was a restraining order that was involved within the divorce. All this occurred in August of 2017 or 2019, I apologize. And it's been an ongoing thing, and they had an upcoming court date in June, according to court records.
Where were those 3 kids? How are they doing?
Unfortunately, the 3 kids were inside the home. They were sleeping. That was confirmed by homicide detectives on the scene of the crime this morning. And they were inside the home. Luckily, they weren't hurt. They're currently in the custody of Department of Child and Family Services, and they'll be handed off to other family members.
The update, James Dorsey was arrested late Thursday night after a chase and standoff in the Gorman area. Now let's welcome the Signal's newest reporter, Kev Kurdoghlian, covering all things City Hall. I first asked him for the latest on the possibility Santa Clarita could create its own health department like Pasadena and Long Beach.
The city received a report that it had requested in September. And the report essentially found that there is no compelling reason to form a health department. And the report listed a number of reasons, which the city manager laid out to the city council during its meeting this past Tuesday. Essentially, the ongoing operating cost is going to be in the tens of millions. The startup cost, I think, might be upwards of $100 million. And at the end of the day, they're not going to get the autonomy that they were hoping for. And actually looking back on this past year, the city manager told the city council that really the flexibility they would have had in terms of the regulations that the county imposed, that flexibility would have given them maybe 2 extra weeks of outdoor dining in Santa Clarita, but everything else would have stayed as it was.
The expansion of Henry Mayo, that was also on the table this week?
Right. So the city council considered a number of documents as part of this expansion plan that Henry Mayo put forward. And the agreement essentially allows the hospital to build a new inpatient building and a new diagnostics and treatment center on what is, I believe, currently parking lot D, which is right next to the main hospital. And this gives the hospital some flexibility to move some beds out of the hospital and have, I think, a little bit more space and make some additional upgrades according to what the hospital's foundation president shared with the city council on Tuesday. They're also expanding their parking structure over there on McBean Parkway. So city council heard, public comment, which generally focused on, the need for adolescent mental health care services, and a lot of protests from a local carpenters union demanding that the city imposed on the hospital or required that the hospital use union labor on the project. Ultimately, the city approved what the Planning Commission had reviewed on several occasions over the last few months, with the added condition that whenever the hospital is considering paid parking as part of a mitigation measure to sort of regulate the flow of traffic on its campus, it would have to come back to City Council with a proposal for their review and approval.
What would be the timeline that Henry Mayo has given?
Yeah, absolutely. Timeline is an important question, but not something that's part of this plan. The City Council's approval essentially gives the hospital the opportunity to make these expansions, but it is up to the hospital to determine, when it's ready, when it has what it needs to start construction.
Kev, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Great insight. And again, welcome to the Signal.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Finally, let's skate over to the Signal's Emily Alvarenga, who got to check out what was the Ice Station Skate Center, but is now the Cube.
So the Cube was awesome. It, obviously the Ice Station has been a staple in the community. Actually, just to note, the city did a study and found that it's the second most used venue in Santa Clarita, ahead of libraries, ahead of parks, so it's pretty up there. So they obviously took it in, kind of renovated it, new paint, new ice. It looks beautiful in the city colors,
Had you been to the Ice Station before? It's paint, it's new logos, things like that. But how was it driving up to this new one?
It honestly, it just felt like they had revitalized a piece that was already there. I don't know if you're familiar with, if you'd been there previously, but
I haven't been. No, I want to go.
Yeah, well, actually, funny enough, the Ice Station had a big broken window for quite a while. They even had a Kool-Aid man that they'd put a sticker over, just kind of breaking through the glass, jokingly. But it just felt like they had, just put a new touch, a touch of Santa Clarita on this building that had always been there, and you just kind of felt like it was ready for a whole new generation of skaters.
So is it, normal hours now? What's the deal with the pandemic? Are they saying, okay, we've unveiled it, but we're not quite opening yet? What's the deal there?
No, they're open. I don't know the exact hours, but it is reopened to the public, and I know that it is. I think it's a little bit limited right now, just because of everything going on. But I know that people can find that on the city's website, or even I'm sure the Cube has its own website by now as well. But skaters were there that first day of the grand opening too. They had a hockey match, even a figure skating showcase as well. And I think that everyone's able to kind of come back out and really use the facility, actually.
To get a hold of Emily, Kev, or Caleb, you can check out the show notes or head over to signalscv.com. Email me story or guest ideas at abender@signalscv.com and connect with me on social media at aronbender.com. Thanks for listening. Be well.